In the annals of military history, few rivalries are as iconic as the duel between the German Tiger and the American Sherman.
For Allied tank crews, the word Tiger was not just a name. It was a whisper of dread that traveled across the front lines.
The Panzer V6 Tiger was a 57-ton monster, heavily armored and armed with the most lethal anti-tank gun of the war.
Opposing it was the M4 Sherman, a 30-ton medium tank designed for mobility, reliability, and mass production. On paper, it was a mismatch. The Tiger was built to dominate, the Sherman was built to win the war through logistics. The Tiger's primary weapon was the dreaded 88mm cannon, capable of knocking out a Sherman from over 2 kilometers away. The Sherman's armor, while decent for 1942, was hopelessly outmatched by the high-velocity shells of the German Cats in 1944.
German crews could engage Allied tanks long before they were even in range to return fire. This disparity created Tiger phobia, where every German tank spotted was reported as a Tiger, causing panic.
In reality, Tigers were rare. Most German tanks encountered were Panzer IVs or Stug assault guns.
The Sherman had its own virtues. It was mechanically reliable, easy to repair, and could travel hundreds of miles without breaking down.
The Tiger was an over-engineered nightmare. It was prone to mechanical failure, guzzled fuel, and was difficult to transport.
A popular myth suggests it took 5 Shermans to kill 1 Tiger. While not an official rule, numbers were the Allied strategy.
Sherman crews learned that they could not win a head-on duel. They had to use speed to flank the heavy German armor.
The Tiger's frontal armor was 100 millimeters thick, but its rear was vulnerable. A shot to the engine was a kill shot.
In the hedgerows of Normandy, the terrain favored the defender. Tigers lay in ambush, waiting for the Shermans to expose themselves.
German aces like Michael Wittmann became legends, reportedly destroying dozens of Allied vehicles in single engagements. During the Battle of Villers-Bocage, a German Tiger tank became involved in a brief but intense engagement, highlighting.
The battle was a shock to the Allies, proving that superior numbers meant nothing if caught in a well-planned trap.
The standard Sherman 75mm gun was excellent for infantry support, but essentially useless against the front of a Tiger.
American crews had to close to suicidal ranges, sometimes within 500 yards, to have any hope of penetration.
Clever crews used white phosphorus smoke shells to blind the German optics, or force the crew to bail out from the fumes. The Sherman had a secret weapon, a gyroscopic stabilizer that allowed it to fire more accurately while moving than the Tiger.
The Sherman's turret rotated much faster, allowing it to acquire targets and react to threats quicker in close combat.
The British solution was the Firefly, a Sherman modified to carry the powerful 17-pounder anti-tank gun. The 17-pounder was the only Allied gun capable of reliably penetrating the Tiger's frontal armor at standard combat ranges. German crews learned to identify the Firefly and prioritized killing it first before dealing with the standard Shermans.
The Americans eventually introduced the 76mm gun, offering better penetration than the 75mm, though.
With scarce HVAP ammunition, the 76mm Sherman stood a fighting chance against the heavy German Cats.
The Sherman was nicknamed Bronson for lighting up the first time, but this reputation was largely exaggerated.
Later models introduced wet stowage for ammunition, drastically reducing the risk of catastrophic fires and saving crew lives.
Statistically, a Sherman crewman had a higher chance of surviving the war than a German tanker, thanks to easy escape hatches.
The Tiger's biggest enemy wasn't the Sherman, it was the Allied Air Force dominating the skies above.
German tanks were forced to hide during the day and move only at night to avoid destruction by fighter bombers.
The 57-ton weight of the Tiger was a logistical curse, too heavy for many European bridges that the lighter Sherman crossed easily.
Keeping a Tiger operational required a team of specialists. Keeping a Sherman running could be done by a farm boy with a wrench. At the Battle of Aracourt, US forces proved that with better tactics and numbers, Shermans could decisively defeat German armor.
The late-war Easy-8 model gave the Sherman better flotation on soft ground and a smoother ride for accurate firing.
By late 1944, the gap was closing. The Sherman wasn't just a target anymore, it was evolving into a hunter. The prey was becoming dangerous.
During the Battle of the Bulge, the winter terrain neutralized the Tiger's range advantage, forcing close-quarters combat. Germany introduced the King Tiger, an even bigger beast, but it was too little, too late, and too unreliable. The jumbo Sherman arrived, heavily armored enough to bounce shots from the German 88, finally leading the charge safely. Crews improvised, welding sandbags, concrete, and spare track links to their hulls in a desperate bid for protection. Near the end of the war, the M26 Pershing appeared, a true heavy tank capable of fighting the Tiger on equal terms.
Famous footage from Cologne showed American heavy armor finally standing toe-to-toe with German cats in the ruins.
Stalin once said, "Quantity has a quality all its own." The US produced nearly 50,000 Shermans, Germany built only 1,300 Tigers.
For every Sherman destroyed, 2 more took its place. When a Tiger was lost, it was gone forever.
German crews were fighting a losing war without rest, their elite skills eroding under the weight of exhaustion.
By 1945, American crews were well-trained, while Germany was throwing teenagers with minimal experience into complex machines.
In the close quarters of German towns, the Sherman's shorter barrel and agility made it a superior street fighter.
The biggest threat in the cities wasn't the Tiger anymore, but the handheld Panzerfaust carried by infantry.
The Americans mastered combined arms warfare, with tanks and infantry protecting each other perfectly.
The terrifying Tigers were often found abandoned, not destroyed by enemy fire, but defeated by lack of supply.
The Sherman spearhead crossed the Rhine, pouring into Germany and crushing the last remnants of resistance.
Soldiers marveled at the captured giants, respecting their engineering but relieved the beast was tamed.
Post-war analysis showed that, while the Tiger was a better duelist,
a tank that breaks down on the way to the battle is useless. The Sherman showed up, the Tiger often didn't.
It was a conflict between artisanal craftsmanship and ruthless industrial efficiency.
The rivalry was paid for in blood. Thousands of young men died inside these steel hulls.
The Tiger influenced the concept of the main battle tank, prioritizing armor and firepower. The Sherman chassis proved so versatile, it served in armies around the world for another 30 years. Movies and games have immortalized the duel, often dramatizing the terrifying odds faced by Allied crews.
Today, only one Tiger I in the world still runs, a museum piece that draws crowds of admirers.
Shermans are everywhere, standing guard in town squares as monuments to liberation.
Was the Tiger a better tank? Individually, yes. Was it the right tank for Germany? Probably not.
An overemphasis on excessively heavy experimental weapons diverted critical resources, limiting the production of more.
The U.S. understood that war is won by supply chains, standardization, and overwhelming force.
Regardless of the machine, the bond between the 5 men inside was the true strength of the armored core.
The rivalry accelerated tank development, turning the clumsy vehicles of 1939 into the main battle tanks of 1945.
Years later, former enemies would meet, sharing a mutual respect for the courage it took to face each other.
The high-pitched whine of the Sherman and the deep roar of the Tiger are sounds etched into history.
Even if Germany had built more Tigers, the fuel and logistical support simply didn't exist to run them.
The Sherman was the child of the American industrial giant, the arsenal of democracy awakening.
The Tiger was a marvel of engineering, but but a failure of strategy. Beautiful, deadly, and doomed. The Sherman was the ugly duckling that carried the Allies to victory on its reliable, mass-produced back.
The lessons of mobility, reliability, and logistics from this rivalry are still taught in military academies today.
They remain the two most recognizable symbols of World War II ground combat.
In the end, the Tiger won the battles, but the Sherman won the war.
History often remembers the monsters, but it is the reliable, the numerous, and the adaptable that shape the future. The Tiger was a legend, the Sherman was a liberator.